Great, good morning. I'm just going to say 1 minute greeting, and I will leave the presentation of today's guest and topic to Father Sergio. But first of all, I want to thank Professor Luntz on behalf of the School of Church Communications for his presence here. We are honored to have you here and taking your time or some time of so many appointments to stay and visit us. So just so you know, he asked precisely that everybody will be close, because this will be a very interactive session, I think. So thank you so much again, Professor Luntz, and the word to Father Sergio.
So welcome you all, and welcome Professor Luntz. As you all know, I have been teaching public speaking for several years now, and you have heard that in different moments we have been speaking in our lessons about framing and reframing messages, and I have to say that many years ago, it was 2009, I had a very nice conversation with one of my friends in Mexico. I'm from Mexico, and is Dr. Emilio Maus, that worked for several years in the National Commission for Human Rights. Mainly, this Dr. Maus has been following the problem of human trafficking in Mexico. That is terrible. It's one of the worst scenarios that we can think of, where people are really wounded, with hard feelings, and it's very difficult to speak with them and handle a conversation with people that have been suffering like that, under prostitution or other kinds of human trafficking for, I don't know, I won't enter to this field. But while we were speaking about this idea of reframing messages with difficult audiences and how to present the things in a positive way, he said, I have just read a great book that probably will be useful for you. And he introduced me to your book on words that work, and it was kind of surprise for me, because I have been looking for that in different moments. Most of us say that when we speak about language, at the end, we are just speaking about, let's say, common sense, how we should think and interact with normal people using courtesy and other, let's say, positive behaviors.
By the way, they're called ordinary people. When you use the word normal, this is what I do. And I'm going to get yelled at when we're done. But when they use the word normal people, that's saying that everybody else is not normal.
No.
If you're ordinary, that's the language of the average individual. I had to teach Newt Gingrich not to use the word normal. So what I taught the former speaker, I teach you right now.
Yes.
With humility.
Yes, certainly. Thank you very much. And so the idea of having you here in this moment, you have read the title for this topic, and you have already read the curriculum that we sent you for Professor Luntz. He had a baccalaureate degree in the University of Pennsylvania on political science and history, but then later on he studied in Oxford political science, but he has been, let's say, working as counselor for many people, not only politicians, about this idea of how we can handle or use our language to frame in a positive way what we are saying. Today, the church, and I would say most of the religious institutions, we are facing I wouldn't say that it's the worst moment, because that's not true, but certainly we're passing in a moment where religion is contested in political arena, in public arena. And so hearing your advice and your expertise in this field, I think, can be very illuminating for us about this, how to handle these cultural challenges, thinking that all of our students will probably work in the future serving the church in different parts of the world. So thank you very much for being with us, and the floor is yours. Thank you.
The way that you just said that, the idea of serving. Too much in the world we teach young people to be proud, and I ask the question, proud of what? If you're 17, 18 years old, what exactly have you accomplished? What have you really done? But we teach pride, and we don't teach humility. The older that I get, the more I realize how dumb I am. The more nervous I get in presentations like this. When I was 30, I loved getting up. I loved doing stuff like this. I had no fear at all, because the truth is I did not know what to be afraid of. And now that I'm approaching 60, I'm really, really scared, because I know how important you all are. This is a wonderful opportunity for me to say to you all, you matter. You have to be successful. Look at the world. I heard about you. I left America 6 months ago because it has become so humanly ugly. There's no civility, there's no morality, there's no ethics, there's no decency. People treat each other as though they're enemies. And without a strong, successful, involved, active church, if they don't get their values from you, where are they going to get them from? Now, you're going to say their parents, but unfortunately, their parents aren't teaching this. I am frightened to death that we have lost the goodness that is so essential and so much a core of the teachings of the church, and in place of that, not only are we selfish, but we are so dismissive. If I could ask you for only one thing, and I'm going to walk through video, I'm going to walk through language, I'm going to encourage you, I'm going to ask you all questions, I'm going to encourage you to challenge me, please. We're not going to... My biggest complaint about the church is that you lecture in an environment in 2021 where we don't want to be lectured to anymore. That's what social media is about. We all put out information rather than taking it in. So I'm going to put out information for the next hour and 20 minutes, whatever it is. But the truth is, I'm here because I want to learn. I want to figure out how to do this better. And I'm trying to light a fire under you to want to do this better. One of the most important meetings I had, and I'll start to show you the stuff in a moment, I was invited to the Archdiocese of Washington, D.C. And if anybody needs help, it's them. And I was so afraid the entire time. And finally, one of the younger individuals there said, you need to calm down. You need to relax. There's nothing to be afraid of. We want you. So stop being so nervous. Tell us what you want to tell us. So the first thing I said to them is, come off the podium. Don't stand behind that thing. Now, I have to because of your rules, and I don't want to wear a mask because I want you to see my face. And I'm accepting that you're wearing masks because it's bad enough that Rome has rules. I think you have even more rules than Rome. So I'm not going to have you break the rules. I'm not going to have you commit a sin in the first 5 minutes that I'm here. But the truth is, I need to be able to see you. I need to see your reaction. I need to see your body language. I need to see, are you looking at me? Are you taking notes? So the first thing I try to teach is it doesn't matter if you're sitting in the room. It doesn't matter if your parishioners are in that room if they're not hearing you. And they're not going to hear you until you come off that podium. And an older gentleman said, we're not here for that. We're not here for you to change how we do what we do. And two younger People about the age of a few of you here actually said that's exactly why he's here. Look around the room. Now, not this room, but look around. Do you have 15-year-olds coming to church every week? Do you have 20-year-olds there? Are you doing great on college campuses? I know the answer to that. The answer is no. I walk into churches here in this country and they are empty except for tourists. You have the most beautiful churches, the most awe-inspiring, just so wonderful that I want to pray in them. And I'm not Catholic, and I want to pray in them. And no, there are no people there. I come on Sundays in a church that can fit 400 people, and I see 20. That's not a success. Something is wrong. And this is about connection. This is about wanting to learn. I want to know your story. I want to know why you committed to coming here, why you could have done anything in life you chose to be here. I want to know why you left the country. Let me do this. Just for this group right here, tell me what country you're from. And I'll start in the front and we'll work backwards. What country are you from?
India.
Okay, why are the Spanish people sitting together? Okay, I'm going to do a bunch of rules. Keep track of this. Rule number 1 is you don't sit with your own country. This is magic. There's supposed to be 40 different countries, 50 different countries here, and all my Spanish people here. You're lucky that they didn't send you away because they tried. Great. So pretend it's 1492 and sail off to another part of the room or something. No, you don't have to do it now. Like Queen Isabella, I'm not going to pay for you to move to some other place. What country are you from?
Liberia. Slovakia. Lithuania.
Estonia.
Okay, Eastern Europe needs to split up too. Is this just by accident, or do people actually do this? So not only do you sit by country, but you even sit by region. Okay, so I got to ask you guys, if a Russian sits among you, do you all move? And is there anyone from Russia here? Okay, then that means I can eat my food today at dinner. I do a lot of work in Washington, D.C., and the Russian ambassador always sits. The Latvian, Lithuanian, and Estonian ambassadors sit together. They they do stuff together. The Russian ambassador always sits with them, and they always get up and move. I've seen this happen. He's making a statement, we're going to run you someday again. And they're making a statement, no, you're not. So again, for you Baltic countries, please spread across the globe. Who's next? Okay. Jeez, come on, guys. Finally, let's Mexico and India unite against Eastern Europe. Okay, and then you and what's your country?
Angola.
You guys should unite against them. This is magic in this room, and this is part of what you teach. These are truths. And one of the things I've learned from doing research with public from across the globe, I'm lucky enough to have worked in 30 countries now, is that there are capital T truths. And one of those capital T truths is that there are values. We are all different. And you learn differently and you respond differently. I can't give you a lexicon. I sat down to try to do what I do with every one of my clients, which is to give you a set of words to use. I can't. I can't even give you really a full set of values to use because it's so different. But there are truths that are truly international. And we are much more an international globe. We are much more international in our outlook. And all you have to do is look at the COP26 results, climate change. When you tell people that these are global. And they are shared. It creates a commonality with you and people who live 5,000 miles away from you. That's a reason to listen. That's a reason to pay attention. And that's what I'm going to try to do, is to walk through this, show you examples of great communication. And then you're going to tell me whether or not that relates to what you do and how you do it. And I'll take any questions you have. Do not wait. This is not an hour-long presentation, and then this is exactly the opposite of a Sunday service. I want you to ask, and if you don't ask, I'm going to ask you guys questions. And the only reason why I'm not actually in front of you right now is I was told that if I get up off of this, or I get any closer than that podium, I have to put a mask on. So I am chained to this desk. But I wish you were not chained to the pulpit. Because if you had the ability to walk and to interact, to make eye contact, and to be within 10 feet of the people you wish to talk to, you would have a much greater likelihood of connecting to them. They would be much more likely to return week after week after week. That should be in your head a rule of communication. If you haven't made eye contact with everyone, and you can't do that if they're all in the back row. It's why I didn't want people sitting in the 2 chairs that you're sitting in now. Because you're too far away from me. Too late. It's never too late. Isn't that what you all teach? I could be on my deathbed, but you can save me, can you not? So that should give me the excuse to make you move, but I won't. I'll let it go. Let me show you this, and then I'm going to ask a couple of you to respond, because every religious leader saw this. This is from America from 2008, and it became a really big deal. By the way, this is called instant response. Everything I show you or tell you has been tested with audiences across the globe. People use a dial about the size of a remote control. They turn it up if they like it. They turn it down if they dislike it. They turn it up if they believe it, down if they disbelieve it. I can figure out word for word whether people trust what's being said and whether they want to hear it or not. So I'm going to show you a few examples of this because these are particularly good communication lessons that I think can be used. This is the worst ever tested in the 35 years of what I've done, and you're going to see why immediately. No. We lost the sound. We had the sound, but we lost it.
Non si sente il computer, scusate.
Sorry. There we go. I'm going to play it, turn it back.
So before we start, what is the GOP and DEM?
GOP, this was done in America. GOP is the Republicans, DEM, and Democrats. So I wanted you to see, good question, I wanted you to see that in so much of language you have a partisan reaction. In everything but this, both Democrats and Republicans responded favorably. In this case, it's not that. In this case, it's very divisive.
That's in the Bible for killing innocent people. God damn America for treating her citizens as less than human. God damn America as long as she tries to act like she is God and she is supreme. The United States government has failed the vast majority of her citizens of African descent.
That is Barack Obama's pastor. That's the man who married him. That's the man whose church that they attended. If they came to you and asked you for a reaction, what would you say? Okay, someone's got to volunteer. What would you say as a religious person to what he had to say? Go ahead, what would you say?
I think they don't like the negative message.
But I come to you, what's your name?
Michael.
Okay, Michael. Michael is someone of faith. What country are you from?
Australian.
Best country in the world. The Australians, they work the hardest and they drink the most. I love it there. What is it, okay, as an Australian religious leader, how do you react to a statement like that?
Well, it's condemning their own country, first of all.
I'm asking you to react to it, so don't analyze it. I'm a member of the press. I've got a TV camera on you right now. What do you say? Don't fold your arms. He literally went like this. Yes, you don't want to fold your arms, because if you fold your arms, you're pushing people away. So when a TV camera comes on, let your hands be your hands. Don't keep them hid. Go ahead. You got to say something. You can't say nothing.
Oh, okay, I have to say something as a reaction. That's
That's
bull dust.
what?
Bull dust. Oh, it's a sort of nice way of swearing.
You would do that?
Bull dust. Yeah, bull dust.
Yes, I wouldn't do that.
That's my reaction. You asked me my reaction. So that's my reaction on that speech.
And okay, so and why would you say that?
Well, again, it's a negative message from the pastor sitting down in the church. So, and condemning its own country.
Okay, one of you guys, how do you respond? Yes, take the microphone. Okay, I don't want to give you a hard time. Can you go? Somebody else volunteer.
You can put down the mask to talk, because otherwise we're not going to understand.
God bless America.
That's how you,
If I'm a religious person and I hear that I'm damnation, my instant reaction will be blessings.
then you need to explain that to people, because that would just be the bite that they would use. And then it would sound like a political statement rather than a statement of faith and spirituality. We are taught in the Catholic Church to see the best. We are taught to see good. We are taught to recognize evil, but to try to preach good. And this is clearly not someone who, you might say he's not mainstream, or this is not someone who we follow the teachings of. This is not what we are about. And then because you basically want to stay out of politics always. There's no good that ever comes when you start to mix religion and politics. But you got to set a context for it. And the context is, can we find the good in people? I think. Does anyone disagree with that? Let me show you another clip. This was, to me, the best impromptu speech ever done. And this is at the assassination of Martin Luther King. And this is what Bobby Kennedy said as they turned the camera lights on. And it's something that he'd written in the minutes before he spoke this. No speechwriter did this for him. You see he's speaking it from his head, and it's really beautiful.
What we need in the United States is not division. What we need in the United States is not hatred. What we need in the United States is not violence and lawlessness, but is
He said, what we need is not. This was his brother's most famous quote ever. Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. He reframed it. If he'd say, don't ask what you can do for your country, everyone would have forgotten it. But he spoke differently. And I'm urging you to consider even the sounds, and it doesn't have to be traditional for your language, because you want people to pay attention to it. So he started with what it isn't, and now he's going to tell you what it is.
Love and wisdom and compassion toward one another. Feeling of justice toward those who still suffer within our country, whether they be white or whether they be black.
Back there, what's the most important value, human value, we can possibly teach our family, our community, and our country? You only get to choose one, a single word to describe the most important value. What is it? Well, I'm going to go across the four of you. Truth. Actually, let me keep going across the back row.
Justice. Human concern. Dignity. Belong. Unity.
I'm going to urge you to do, and actually, I think he's the dean, correct?
Yes, he's the dean.
Okay. I urge you, this is a great, what would you say it was? Comprehension. This is a great survey for you to do of the people who are here, both the faculty and the students. And I bet you we can get 10 really good questions, and then you've got a cover story for this magazine. What is the most important value we can teach? But they all have different values, and no one is wrong. And how you then articulate. So what we try to figure out is that most important value, then we figure out how to explain that value, because there are a half dozen ways to talk about love. And then what's the right story behind the explanation of what love is? Is love sacrifice? Is love commitment regardless of what happens? Is love total joy without limitation? There are different ways, and they're all correct. What matters most to you? And every year, I've learned this from countries, every year pick a new theme. And this is what I attend when I attend religious services. I come for the sermon. I come to hear a point of view. So how do you show that? How do you articulate it? Because you don't get a chance to do any visuals. It's all going to come from your language. What's the most important value? What is the one sentence illustration of it? What is the one story behind it? And what do you want people to take from it? Should be part of your preparation for everything that you communicate. I'm going to ask another question, and I will do it. I'm going to go up this, and I'll start with the dean. I'm going to work my way up the furthest left-hand seat, going all the way back. What do you dislike the most? What is your or the church's greatest opponent or enemy or thing you don't want people to do? What are you fighting against?
Hypocrisy.
Hypocrisy.
Hypocrisy also. Hatred. Hate.
Hatred.
Justice.
No, what you're fighting against. Oh, injustice. I was thinking you're fighting against justice. Oh, you must be Donald Trump. Behind you.
Injustice.
Okay. Again, is there a consensus? What is a value that we should oppose? What is a condition we should oppose more? Is it hatred or injustice? That's a great conversation. That's a great debate. These are wonderful things that actually you can have in these classrooms. and in the wider community overall. And you invite people who sit with you to participate in it. This is what's really important, to engage your followers, to engage the people who come with you. Give them a chance. I don't know, has that ever been done in the church before? Has anyone ever stood up and said, okay, we're going to talk about hatred today, and ask 6 people sitting there, what do you hate the most? Something to consider. You know that in this, and I think it was part of the brief, in this social media, technology, cell phone world, we don't sit and take in information, we're always putting it out. What about a combination of the two? What about a chance to give your, I call them constituents, your parishioners, your followers, give them a chance to speak and then respond. It's everything you want them to learn, everything biblical, no compromise on values, no compromise on ideals, no compromise on principles. But it involves their input and not just from you. Do you all understand that idea? Inviting them, either it's positive or negative. So now I'm going to put it to a vote. I'm looking for the smoke that we can send up afterward. How many of you think that's a good idea? Raise your hands. To actually allow the people in your congregation to speak and offer their point of view as you comment to them. That's the vote. Should they be allowed, or should it only come from you? Who says they should be allowed? Raise your hands. Who says it should only come from you? Raise your hands. Okay, you all got to participate. It would certainly change the dynamic. What's your reaction to that? How do you react to it? I'm
Actually, I would say that usually we only do that during, let's say, our religious service. The only moment that I have seen where you truly interact and ask questions is during the mass with little boys. At least in Mexico is what we do. We usually have the first morning service is with the kids, no? And families would put in front, let's say in the first rows, they would put the children, and the homily in many cases would be like that, no? Asking them and interacting. But then afterwards, we will lose that style. Probably the point is it's my idea, you can speak, no? But you have to take care, like you were saying before, at least there should be interaction while you are keeping the eye contact and like hearing them, no? You understand if they are following you, no? And mainly, at least from my point of view, I would say that the most important thing would be to, when you choose the topic, it should be something that they have asked to hear for. It should be something interesting from them, not something that I think is interesting for me.
See the difference, and maybe I'm wrong, and maybe this is insane, and this will be the last time I ever speak to you, but there's a difference between lecturer and teacher. And this is something that our friend Nicholas, the proudest moment for me is when one of my students says, "You're not a professor, you're a teacher." I was so proud. A professor lectures. A teacher actually teaches. And with that teaching, you have the interaction. You have, by the way, by definition, if there's a teacher, there's a learner. Not just a student, but someone who's learning. I'm thinking of how to grow the church, of how to touch more people, interact with more people, make a greater difference with more people. Go ahead.
So I can't really get your myself is, okay, we get all this information and conversation going on. So what's the end? Are we going to summarize it or give them something to take on? So for example, if we put up then the vote, okay, the most vote that we get will be the definition of this certain thing, or so that's a sort of bit unsure for this point.
And I'm aware of that actually, for several meetings that we've had. And the church goes through that rarely, but this is the chance for the entire community to be heard. It's really not a vote, and the purpose of it is not a vote. It's the feeling that religion is a two-way street, that it's not just receiving information, it's not just giving information, which so much of a life is, it's a combination, which is the best of life itself. It allows the leadership of the church to understand what the priorities are of the people that they serve, which is how you introduced me, which I love, because this is a servant's culture, and everyone gets that. They understand it, they appreciate it. But it doesn't mean that the public is always right. But you need to know where they are, because if you're over here and they're over here, every week you're going to have less people showing up. But if you're only doing what they're telling you to do, then you're missing the point, because there are fundamental truths that are not open to argument. It's a combination. It's being responsive without being slavish, if that's the right word, to either public opinion or to dogma. It's a balanced approach designed for 2021.
So if I understand you clearly, this is about where they are at the moment and what they're interested in.
Yeah. It's a process I would kill to be involved with, because it's going to impact more people than about anything else on the globe. Climate change is probably number one, because climate change hits everyone in every country. After climate change, what you're going through over these 2 years is brilliant. And you all should be leaders in it, because it's going to help you do what you do better.
I just wanted to point out, I assume you already know that the church is making right now a great effort on the synodal path, synodal way, introduced by the Pope recently. So there's a great initiative right now as we speak about the thing you suggest, the synodal way, where everybody in the congregation has a right to be heard. So hopefully it will bring some fruits. Yeah.
I love that. I think that you could have avoided some of the challenges to your situation if you had done that 10 or 15 years ago, when people were actually at that point demanding to be heard. But I'm not going to criticize you for coming to it now, because it's a really, really good approach. And it is in clear distinction. There is a battle, I'm trying to figure out how to raise this in a politically correct way, but there's a battle in Islam right now between Shiite and Sunni, between fundamentalists and, I won't call them reformers, but just a different approach. We are not the same world that we were 2,000 years ago, or in their case, 1,200 years ago. And the fact that you're going through this global conversation is so essential. And it's not just what people want to hear, it's even how they hear it, how you present it, how you interact with them and they interact with you. 100 years ago, you never ever spoke up to someone in charge of a congregation, no matter what religion it was. You never challenged them. We challenge everything today, so we need to modernize for that. Question or comment? Yes, sir.
Yeah, for me, I think it's a wonderful opportunity to give the people opportunity for them to talk, because it defines the church comprehensively, because the church is that of the people of God. And then secondly, is an opportunity to have a feedback. There is no society, no institution that can grow without getting feedback.
Okay, so how do we convince everyone to do it? Don't give the microphone up yet. I believe you're right. How do you convince everyone in this room to do that?
For me to convince them, they need to understand that the church is a family, just like the function of the Holy Trinity. And the family, everybody participates. It is not for the father alone, or for the mother alone, or the children alone. Everybody has to be part and parcel of the family, for the family to grow. So you need everyone. Everyone is very important. Don't undermine any person in the family.
That's great. Okay, you need to spend your time going through as many of these sessions as you possibly can, because that's going to be very good for the people in the room. Anybody else? Let me show you.
Something.
Yes.
I was just impressed as we saw one example first and then Kennedy's second, of the effect of the tone of voice, because I don't think shouting is persuasive, but it seems that in some audiences shouting is persuasive, and so I don't know what you have seen, because for me it's much more engaging the how you say humble voice of Kennedy, and it's true that he's speaking in a funeral, and so I also understand, and certainly he has also raised his voice in other moments, no? But the idea of speaking again about this humility as a virtue of the orator, of the speaker, I don't know if you can tell us anything about it.
Only 4 people did I not make eye contact with when I came down there. I said nothing at all. I said nothing. And I lost 1 person over there, I lost 2 people back there, and 1 person in the center group. That's it. And I said nothing. The truth is, if I speak to you at this level, where you have to strain to hear me, you are so much more likely to remember everything I tell you than if I shout. You're more likely to write it down, and if I come back a month from now, you'll remember this moment more than anything else. And even more powerful than this, I waited till he broke. It's that silence. But you can't say to people, okay, let's take a moment of silence. Look at people when you do that. I don't get this. A moment of silence to pay respect to our troops. A moment of silence for those that we have lost in the last year. You have different reasons why there's a moment of silence. When you ask people to do it, then it's not authentic. It's your direction. Those moments of silence, when I pause, make everything I say to you so much louder that I don't have to shout. It is what it is. This is human behavior. There's nothing, this is not rocket science. And so I don't understand when I go, and I get really angry when I walk in, because I will stop by, I'll listen to 30 or 40 sermons a year because I enjoy it. I enjoy how they present. And if they present badly, I get mad. I want to yell at them because you wasted my time and you didn't inspire me. So when I'm done, the very first thing I'm going to do when I'm done with this is to go to him, because he is my student and now he works for me, and ask him, I'm going to ask him what I did wrong, not how was it, what should I not have done in here? Because we are, as human beings, we are too likely to seek affirmation. I don't learn from affirmation. I learn from criticism. I learn from making mistakes, from getting it wrong and then figuring out how to do it better. So I know you're completely engaged. It helps that you're from Australia. What city are you from?
Melbourne.
Melbourne. Well, I much prefer Sydney, so get out. It's the lessons of life that we should be seeking. And if we're not seeking it ourselves, then how can we teach other people to seek it? If we're not self-critical, how can we ask others to be critical of themselves? If we don't uphold values that are taught in the church, how do we ask others to do the same? And if we can't communicate it, then how do we expect people to hear it from us? It is not what you say that matters, it's what people hear. The most powerful thing you can do is to have a group of people talk to you after your sermons to ask them, what'd you think? Did you learn anything from it? I don't care if they liked it. I don't care if they're entertained. I don't want to entertain you. I want to teach you. And if you didn't learn from it, then what can I do so that next Sunday is better? That's what this is about. And the problem we're going to get, when I do the faculty stuff today, we're going to talk about cancel culture and woke and all that stuff, is the problem is we are so afraid of offending people now that we don't speak the truth or that we censor ourselves. And there's some really significant moral issues, ethical issues that are facing this globe, facing this community, and we can't deal with it because we're afraid of it. We're afraid of being canceled. That's what scares me. So that's why this communication is so important. Let me show you a couple more video, and then I'm going to give you specific numbers, some specific language, where people stand. I'm going to finish Bobby Kennedy's comments. That one's not helpful. I'm not making political judgment here. I want you to see stuff that I think will be, this is very good.
Ordinary people.
By the way, he knew no normal people, ordinary people. I know him pretty well. I need to call him and tell him that he just helped me prove a point.
Ordinary people are given the chance to choose. The choice is the same. Freedom, not tyranny. Democracy, not dictatorship. The rule of law, not the rule of secret police.
So those of you taking notes, that word not, this, not this, A, not B, is a great construct no matter what culture you're in. It's going to work in Africa. It's going to work in India. It's going to work in every country that's represented in Eastern Europe that's all in that group. I'm now thinking to myself, if I knew Putin, I'd call him and tell him that all of his ex-people are sitting right here in this corner. He should come by. This, not this, is a great way to communicate.
The spread of freedom is the best security for the free. It is our last line of defense and our first line of attack.
Our last line of defense, our first line of attack. That's a parallel. You want to speak in parallels because people remember that as well. You speak in rhymes. Legislation, litigation, innovation, any of the shuns, regulation, they remember it. If you speak in a rhyme, they remember it. If you speak in parallels, they remember it. First, last, high, low, loud, quiet, right, and wrong, which is a core to your teachings. That parallel goes right into the brain and it becomes memorable and impactful.
And just as the terrorists seeks to divide humanity in hate, so we have to unify it around an idea.
Now what he should have done here is divide in hate or unify in love, unify in freedom, unify in whatever the value it is. Divide in hate, unify in, and I would have edited this from his speech. And he would have ignored me.
And that idea is liberty.
Okay, so what's the idea? That's why I asked you about that value. In 2021, you're approaching Christmas. What is the idea that you want to communicate on this holiday season with so much death in this country and so many countries that are here right now? This is a really bad year for the globe. What's the idea that you want to communicate? Can you respond? I don't know who does well in English and who doesn't. I don't want to put you on. I do want to put you on the spot. I don't want you to feel awkward. Go ahead.
Hope.
And why is hope the idea you want to communicate?
Well, because there's so much despair in the last 2 years that people need to go out of the tunnel. No? So this.
Okay, so the answer is because there's so much despair, we need to show people hope. What would you say? Again, I don't want to put anyone on the spot. I need 3 volunteers. You've done it already. Go ahead.
I would focus on solidarity.
Because?
Because today we see people being selfish, or maybe they looked into themselves, and it is better to see the other and reach out to them.
So now I'm going to flip the order. This is a communication technique which will make you better heard and make you more remembered. Because we have so much selfishness in the world today, I want us to talk about hope. Start your sentence, start your mission with the word because. Every English teacher will kill me for saying this. I don't care, I don't like them. They gave me bad grades, so I don't follow their rules. If I want to be memorable, I start a sentence with because, and it cannot be a bad sentence. Because there is so much fear, I want people to see the goodness of life. Because people are hungry, I want to focus on feeding people and getting them nourishment. Whatever the because is. One more. And you sat in the back. So what would be your mission for Christmas in a sentence?
I would say hope, but because talking about this.
You can repeat somebody. It's okay.
Well, in the sense of because there's not only despair but also 2 years of 2 tiresome years. People are I don't know to say that. Yeah, they are suffering, but because they are suffering, I'll talk about hope and talk about finding joy in these dark times.
Okay, so there's 2 different themes there. Because of suffering, hope and joy. Hope changes your perspective. Joy changes your experience. I prefer that. Because it can't, and maybe this is not appropriate. This is where it's your judgment, not mine. Hope is aspirational. Joy is fun. Joy is goodness. It's a different definition. I listen to every word. I consider every single word. And I go back after I've written it in a speech. And by the way, I never delivered a prepared speech. I will write the speech and then I will not ever look at it. Because I need to make eye contact. I need to see every one of you in this room. And I can't do it by looking down and looking up, because everyone knows that that's phony and fake. And whoever taught you to look over here, look down, look over here, look down, should be fired. Because it's not real. The most detailed you should be is on a napkin. You should be allowed this much paper, and you write down 6 or 7 words. Because that way you're going to be staring at your people, and they're going to be, you're in that relationship. So I'm looking at the guy with the mask, but you all have masks on. You with the sweater. I will hold on you, and then I'm going to look over at the guy with the sweatshirt. And I'll hold on him till I get some sort of acknowledgement. And by the way, I'm so wired to do this that I won't look away until you look at me and you actually start to nod. Because I want to make that much of an impact. And you should want that too. You're not filling up time. You're trying to give people an understanding. You're trying to explain to them and give them a direction that'll be good for them, good for their families, and good for society. Let me finish him. I'm going to show you Barack Obama, and then we're going to move on.
We must find the strength to fight for this idea and the compassion to make it universal.
So this is another great question. What are you willing to fight for? It's a weird question because I know it's really not a religious question, but what are you willing to fight for? What are you willing to get in front of people and disagree with them over? You could do the most amazing study that would get worldwide attention if you asked these questions of the next generation of priests. What really matters to you today? What are you willing to give up to get there, to make it happen? I really think you should consider it because it's so educational. And I've never seen it anywhere.
Abraham Lincoln said, "Those that deny freedom to others deserve it not for themselves."
Okay. That's like a mantra. That's a favorite quote. Do any of you have a favorite quote, either from the Bible or from life, that you can impart to us? A favorite line that you think about? My favorite poem of all time is "If." Rudyard Kipling says, if you need me to do a microphone. Rudyard Kipling wrote the most amazing poem. If you can keep your head while all those about you are losing theirs, the world would be yours. I mean, it's such a great poem. And when someone recites it, if someone uses that quote to me, instantly they're a friend of mine. Instantly, I want to take them out for a meal. I want to know something about them because it means that much to me. Someone from this group, give me a favorite line or a favorite quote or something that really matters to you. You have to participate. Come on, you have none? Okay, guy with a gray sweatshirt. Do you understand my question? Woman in front of you. Do you understand my question? You don't understand. I don't know what to do here. I'm stumped. Go ahead.
Democracy is what? Government of the people, by the people, and for the people.
Okay, but slow it down.
Democracy is what? Government of the people, by the people, and for the people.
And who said that?
It's Abraham Lincoln.
And that's your favorite line?
Pardon?
That's your favorite line?
Yes, of course. Yeah, I've used many times.
Where are you from?
I'm from India.
Do you have a quote from a great Indian leader?
Oh, but it's funny sometimes. Okay. Yeah, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has spoken out, but it's like.
I'm not sure if I would use Modi as my favorite quote person. You should have one. You should have one that explains who you are and what you're about. Yeah. You should have one, it's like a go-to line that explains your priorities, your mission for the future. You can have more than one, but at least you should have one that's really special to you.
This has been a favorite of my life. That goes it way. It is anonymous. It says, "What you are is God's gift to you, and what you become is your gift to God."
Applaud him. That's it. I promise you, when you do that presentation, when you're speaking, and you say that, everyone's going to go, wow. That's part of connecting. And then whatever you say next, they're going to listen. and they're going to think better of you for it. So that's what I mean by a mantra. That's what I mean by something powerful. Did you write that down?
And it is this sense of justice that makes moral the love of liberty.
This sense of justice which makes moral this sense of liberty. It's awful English, but it causes people to pay attention to it. And it's really powerful. I think that's it.
In some cases where our security is under direct threat.
There we go. Last one on this.
But what has not changed is the imperative of citizenship. That willingness of a 26-year-old deacon, or a Unitarian minister, or a young mother of 5 to decide they love this country so much that they risk everything to realize its promise.
The way he presents it, he gets that sound. He's trying to communicate to you. He's trying to get into your head. He's trying to say this matters, even in his hand gestures, pauses with each example. By the way, speak in threes, for those of you taking notes. Speak in threes. 1 is random. 2 is a trend. 3 is proof. 1 example is meaningless. 2 examples gives you an idea. That 3rd example says this matters, and they get it from that. And if you can, enumerate, because people can follow you. I've got 3 reasons for this. First, and by the way, if I do this way, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, it's not beautiful, but it is impactful, and that's what you're trying to be. So it's not just his words, it's how he delivers them.
That's what it means to love America. That's what it means to believe in America.
And the repetition. Loud for some words, softer for others. The tone matters. The presentation matters.
That's what it means when we say America is exceptional. For we were born of change. We broke the old aristocracies.
Watch this.
But endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights.
That pause. Certain pause, inalienable rights. I can't do that. He's got a gift. But clearly you do also, or you would not be in this room. Clearly you seek to have the same impact. Maybe not on a nation, but on the people around you. That pause matters, and you see it. He's got attitude. I don't know how that translates, but I know you're going to be memorable if you got it. I know people are going to want to listen to you if you got it. Okay, in this case, there is a little bit of entertainment, but it's surrounding a very powerful message, a very powerful way to communicate.
We secure our rights and responsibilities to a system of self-government of and by and for the people. That's why we argue and fight with so much passion and conviction, because we know our efforts matter. We know America is what we make of it.
You can easily use that for your messages. Life is what we make of it. Now expand that. Expand it to what you want it to mean, or what you're trying to translate for them. So I want to move on because I want to show you, but this, you've seen 5 minutes of a 53-minute presentation. This is the best language of all. I urge you to seek out the best speakers, every one of you, in your languages, in your culture. Seek out the best speakers and watch them. And pick out areas from them that you want to be yourself. I'm not asking you to use your hands and wave them around, but I am asking you to be effective. And by the way, effort, I'm going to speak something that is not part of the church, and you're going to disagree with me. I could care less about your effort. Effort doesn't matter. Results matter. I don't care how hard you try. If you're bad at it and you can't improve, then you should be doing something else, which I know is not the teachings of the church. But you are so important that failure is not an option here. it is the actual result. Even if you don't put in that much effort, if you are making people face their challenges and their difficulties, and if you're making a difference in their lives, that's what we're here for. Not to try, but to do. So something to consider. I'm going to stop for a second. Questions or comments? You have to do something to get them to participate, because it cannot be this one-sided conversation. This is not right. This is not appropriate for me. I'm now lecturing you. And I said to you at the beginning, I don't want to do this. It has to be interactive. How can I help? Let me try that as I pull up the PowerPoint. Is there a question that can help you do what you're trying to do better? Because you're not perfect. And if you have no questions, then you must think you're perfect. So I'm actually getting agitated now. What can I do as someone who has studied communication globally?
Close to us, and that they say, okay, Father, you're doing great, and blah, 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 and everything. The feedback is very positive. But perhaps it's more difficult to reach out to people that are not precisely coming to you because you don't have them, you know? So how to use language also to reach out to people that are far away? Because we have this difficulty that sometimes we just are talking to the people that we already have.
You have to ask them. The number one way to do that is to ask questions. And in fact, I'm going to skip this for now. 5 things for you. I'll answer it specifically, and then I'll go back to the rest of this. How are you relevant in their life? Why should they make an investment of time or an investment of mind share to listen to anything that you have to say? If you can't prove that you're relevant to them, then there's nothing you can do. Then I don't care what events you hold. I don't care how charismatic you are. If it's not relevant, you will not reach them. So you have to show them that you will make a difference in their lives. I have been, for the last 5-6 years, I've had this horrific crisis of confidence, not in myself, but in my country, to the point where it has affected how I live. And I found a religious figure who I put in my life, who put it all in context for me and helped me make it through the day. He did not answer. He did not fix it, but he made it livable for me. So he is one of the most relevant people. I have every hour of the day for him. I'll do anything he wants me to do. I'll donate to whatever cause he wants because he's available to me when I want to complain about some other injustice in my country. That's relevant to me. So number one is relevance. Why should either God or the church or you matter in their life? Why are you relevant to them? Second, how do you show that your life will be more healthy with God as an important part of it? That idea of health is so powerful all across the globe right now. It doesn't matter what continent you're in. And climate's what changed all that. The idea that a healthy family, a healthy community, a healthy life is a better life, is a life worth living. But it's not physical health. It's not you telling me that I should not have had an extra piece of cake this morning because I was so nervous that I wanted to have dessert for breakfast, basically. It's a healthy head. Healthy thought process, healthy relationships. You show people that you add to their health, and they'll want you part of their life. Third, this is really important because the church is under so much attack right now, and I don't know how much you want to get into this, but I don't think the church has ever been under. You started to say it, and then you backed away. Don't back away. In so many parts of the globe, you're being thrown in jail, you're losing support, financially and feet on the street, or you're older and younger people aren't embracing the church. the way that you get over that is through not just respect, but it's mutual respect. So it's the idea that you respect people from other faiths. You respect people from other cultures. You embrace differences rather than, this is why I don't want people from the same country sitting next to each other. When I'm in an international environment, the truth is, I want to know about your background because you told me a little bit about it. But I stay away from Americans. I won't sit with them. I don't talk with them. I teach at NYU Abu Dhabi. I actually try to intimidate them out of my class. I know what there is to know about America. I want to know about everybody else here. And that's what you offer, is a chance to learn and grow based on knowledge that you have that others don't. And it's knowledge of spirituality, knowledge of faith. It's that knowledge that puts you at ease that I want to learn about. And by the way, you're not going to be able to do all 5 of these. If you can do 2 of them well, great. And your job is to figure out which matters. Honesty. You have a problem with that. The church does. Has a reputational problem right now. And the reason for that is the lack of accountability. So the last 2 are defensive. The first 3 are opportunities that you develop. You need to, as you know, in any kind of sport, it's not just offense, it's not just defense, it's both. If I had 5 minutes and only 5 topics to address, I would choose 2 of these. And this is what I'd be using to reaching those that you've not reached yet. It may be a story, it may be a parable, it may be a metaphor, it may be a directive. The coolest thing that I learned in explaining the 10 Commandments to people who said, don't tell me how to live. Exactly what commandment is bad? Exactly how are you hurting yourself by choosing any of these? What about this is a bad way to teach young people to behave? Instead of declaring it, I learned to ask it as a question. And there isn't a bad one in the bunch. I mean, it's one of the reasons why Mel Brooks got such a great laugh in the history of the world. I bring from the Lord these 15, then he drops one, these 10 commandments. Or the jokes about Bill Clinton deciding which commandment he's not going to follow. I mean, there's humor in this, but this is my answer to you. This is my guide. And this would be my guide to you. What else? Okay. Going back. So okay. Does the frog live or die? I'll speak loudly. Does the frog live or die? How many of you, I know that this is a room full of faith, but how many of you think the frog lives? Raise your hands. How many of you think the frog dies? Raise your hands. By the way, I want the record to show that all the people from Eastern Europe said dies. Okay, if you think the frog lives, stand up. If you think the frog lives, stand up. I'm going to start, and you're going to tell me why. Why does the frog live?
Because the frog is very, very small.
That is not the reason. Down. Why does the frog live? No, not you, not up. Why does the frog live?
Sei in Italia?
No, es que estoy pensando. I don't know. It's very. It's true. It's true. Straps. Because I'm sorry, I block. No, okay, I think I block. Mi sono bloccato. I'm sorry.
Why does the frog live?
I think frog is very rapidly, quick, fast, very fast to
I was
scan.
wondering, the frog is very radical. I didn't know the frog had political beliefs, but frog isn't fast enough. Pass it to the woman in front of you. Why does the frog live?
Because it is
If you're not sure, pass it to him.
I think it will live because it has got a flexible body and it will jump because of its swiftness. Before the crocodile closes its mouth, it will jump out.
It's a what?
It will jump out, this frog, because it has got a flexible body and it's very fast, the swiftness, so it will live.
Okay, no, this is not a science class. It's not fast enough. Why does the frog live?
Maybe because you have chosen this picture to illustrate the trust. So I believe that this is answering the question of trust.
Wrong. You can tell I'm not a nice person, that I would mislead you. Why does the frog live?
I suspect that the frog will live because it wouldn't have gotten into the mouth of the crocodile and in one piece, as it seems to be in one piece and not suffering, without knowing how to get out. In other words, its presence there suggests that there's a relationship that's not one of, I'm about to be eaten.
Now you know why people don't listen to America at the UN. No. Why does the frog live?
Probably because she's doing a service to the...
Okay, well that's disgusting, but no. Why does the frog live?
Because to me, he seems a friend of the crocodile. He seems very confident. He seems very friendly, and he clearly trusts him.
That frog looks friendly to you? Why does the frog live?
Come on, the crocodile is dead.
He got it. He got it. Good for you. Every one of you, I asked you whether the frog lives or dies. Now think about this. Whether the frog lives or dies has nothing to do with the frog and everything to do with the alligator. Right? No, you are not correct. No.
It includes that.
No. Whether you do a good sermon, whether you connect to people, isn't what I think of this presentation is meaningless. It's what you think of it that matters. In everything that we do. That's why it really is what you say and not what they hear and not what you say. There's nothing more important than individualizing your message, personalizing it, and humanizing it. It's what you do every single day. By the way, of all the pictures that we've tested on retirement, what is positive on retirement? This is number one for the West. First, the focus is on her, not on him. Second, they look happy and healthy. Third, she gets a chance to stop and smell the roses, which is a Western phrase about having the time and having the ability to do the things that you want to do. Every message should be individualized so that everyone listening to it sees it for themselves. It should be personalized because that's how we collect information, and it should be humanized because in the end, if it's just a philosophy, that won't touch people, that won't move people. You need to connect to people. I need to warn you. We asked this, and this was done in Europe. We asked, because we're looking at woke, which of these frightens people the most? Which concerns people the most? And it matters whether you are on the left or on the right. So this is actually done in the UK. Religious fundamentalism scares people on the right more than anything else. There are people who are afraid of you. There are people who think that you are teaching not just things that aren't true, but that you're dangerous. So how do you communicate to those who are hostile. So these are not even people who are distant from us. These are people who oppose what you do. And the truth is that you can't move everybody. But there's one way you can move the most number of people, and it's this. The one thing that we all have in common in this room is a commitment to the next generation, is a commitment to those that come after us. And I'm going to show you how significant this is. This is not politics. This is not about ideology. This is about a better future, which is inherent in what you teach and what you preach. So we wanted to know, what questions do you ask? And to my surprise, it's all about kids. It's all about the next generation. That's such an awesome, unifying message, a unifying theme. And just don't forget that it is about grandchildren, not just children. Because there are people in their 60s, 70s, and 80s that are frightened. In fact, I always ask this question, what is the closest family relationship of all? It isn't husband-wife. It's not brother-sister. It's not mother-daughter or father-son. It's actually grandparent-grandchild, because they both have the same enemy. Sometimes people get that, sometimes they don't. I'll let you think about that. It really is a powerful motivating force and a unifying force, and something that stretches across the globe, and it really makes a difference. So we ask the question, what matters most to you when you think of your children? And the number one answer is, will they be happy? That's a sermon that you can use over and over and over again, a different perspective. Thanks to social media, thanks to this device, thanks to our politics, thanks to our economics, thanks to climate and science, thanks to medicine. There are a lot of things that kids are really afraid of right now, and their parents are afraid for them. You can do a dozen different messages based on the happiness, or even challenging it. So this isn't saying to you that I need to do 12 sermons on will our kids be happy, and why does the Catholic Church and the directions of the Catholic Church help them be happy. That's not what this says. This tells you what's important to them. So if you wish to be relevant, you address this. So you asked me the question about I don't know what you call it, but where everyone's going through this process over the next 2 years. This is an important finding, but it is instructive, it is informative, it is not declarative. You decide what matters to you. Another example, because we wanted to know what people were concerned about for their children and their grandchildren. The number one answer in the UK is technology. This lends itself perfectly to a sermon on technology. These are the top 3, 6, top 8 answers. We then have the bottom 3, 6, 7 answers, and look at what is dead last. Our young people are falling further and further behind other young people from other nations. Nobody cares about competition. They care about cooperation. They care about compromise. This is the kind of global message that you're looking for. A couple more here. Do you realize that and this is also for the UK, that 23% are wondering whether they have the bills and whether they have the money to pay the bills in a country as developed as the UK? So ask yourself this question: how many people who sit before me go to sleep at night? This is the most powerful way to demonstrate a sense of security and peace of mind, or the lack of it. There are so many people in this room, I am sure that a majority of your people go to sleep with 2 challenges in mind. As my eyes close, and I have my final thoughts of the day, are those thoughts putting food on the table? Are those thoughts paying my bills at the end of the week? For if they are, that person cannot possibly have peace of mind. That person cannot possibly be achieving the kind of a sense of security that they're looking for. And that's how you explain it. It is not, do you feel secure? It is not, do you have peace of mind? It is, what is your final thought as you drift off to sleep? I ask you to think about it. And that, by the way, is individualizing, personalizing, and humanizing. It is the single greatest fear for a parent, not being able to provide for their children. What do you offer for that? How do you help that? If you want to get respect and appreciation for all the charitable work that is done, there is nothing more powerful. And this is why, when I had my stroke, I had to decide between, you'll appreciate this, I would have forgotten it. There were two, I'm doing a focus group on camera on the 10th of January, 2020. And my arm is getting numb, and it's moving up my arm. And I'm ignoring it, and I keep shaking my arm. And I was told that I looked white as a ghost that day. I get to the hotel, and it starts to go up the arm, and I feel it now moving across my face. It was not I don't know what you call it, but it was both a blood clot and a bleed. And if I'd not gone to the hospital, if I'd gone to sleep rather than going to the hospital, I would not be here right now. And they had two hospitals. They had a Presbyterian, we'll see how you react to it. They had a Presbyterian hospital and they had a Catholic hospital, and they're both equidistant. And so my question was, which one is more likely to save a Jew? We agreed that the Catholic hospital was the better hospital to go to. That's the one I went to, and I speak to you now. But you'll understand, I'm the one who should be applauding. I'm the one who's grateful. It's a real story. It really did happen. I really did ask the people at the front desk. And I was at a DoubleTree, and I had two questions to ask them. One is, which hospital should I go to? And the other one is, can I have an extra cookie, because I hadn't eaten that day. And that turned out to be the only food I had for 48 hours. That's a personal story. That's what this is about. Using personal stories and teachings for the last 2,000 years to connect to people, to show its relevance and its meaning today. Every one of your presentations should have that. I've even got a slide here on it. It's going to take me too long to find it, so I'm going to skip it. I want to show you about values now. You going to ask a question? Later. What's the most important value? This is why I want you to ask this in a survey here. If you're speaking to the British, it's family. Although I will tell you that I think they love animals more than they love family. And Americans love family more than they love animals, but you can argue with that. Family, fairness, equality, hard work. What doesn't matter nearly as much is the future, not spending more than you have. And there's another way to look at this, which is, what are the most essential values in a society? Trust is number one, and there's nothing else that's more important. You need to know this for your society. I can't judge this for you. Every society is different. But if you get this kind of result and you lose the trust of the people around you, you lose everything. That's why I think it's so important for you to be able to prioritize for the people who are here what matters most. And then this becomes the focal point of what you say and what you communicate. Notice what comes in dead last is empowerment and personal control. And yet that's what you hear from politicians all the time. What you don't hear from them all the time, trust and integrity, which is probably why it matters most. And we got a real problem across the globe in that. So what do we need most? The highest priority is mutual respect, fairness, open-mindedness, and then tolerance comes below that. Now, I know that tolerance is taught here, but the idea that I tolerate you in English is I accept you, but it's not an embrace. Mutual respect is I appreciate you, I value you. I tolerate you is the lowest level of communication. I was very agitated because in the Emirates, they made last year the year of tolerance. And I said to them, that's not really what you mean. You are embracing other cultures. By the way, I would feel better practicing my Catholic faith in, gotta be careful, we'll see what your reaction is, in the UAE than I would in India right now. Even though India is supposed to be a democracy, I know what's going on. The UAE is not a democracy, and I know that you are protected. They will not let anything happen. That they know they're on the world stage and they take this seriously. So once again, you've got a different situation depending on what your culture is. But that mutual respect communicates that you respect them, and all you ask from them is to respect you. Because that's what mutual respect is about. A couple points on speaking, and any questions, any comments? So you guys are going to have to teach me how to make this more discussion-oriented. Is this what happens in your classes? More or less. Do not do this. I will answer anything for you. And the cool thing is, I'm from the outside. So I don't feel any pressure to give you a certain answer. I feel a pressure to give you an accurate answer for what you're going to receive when you do it. But we live in a world that challenges. We live in a world that disagrees. It is wonderful that you received this much information without yelling at me. This doesn't happen in any university in anywhere across the globe. I don't care where I am, I will be chewed out. That's not great, but this is not great either. I really want you to feel welcome. So when I do my presentations, I use her as an example because she is the most skeptical individual on the face of the earth. Yes, she is Anglo. She is Anglo. And she is younger, and she doesn't believe anything of what's being told her, and she's going to tell you off. She does not like this room because she thinks this room doesn't respect her and her values and her right to think something different from you. She's a problem for you. You asked the question, how do we reach out to people who aren't part of us right now? She's not part of you. She has no time for religion, no time for faith, but she's got a hole in her heart, a hole in her soul. She's changed a lot in the last 50 years. She's now focused on her career, focused on her beliefs, and they aren't religious. You got to bring her in. You got to reach out to her. Her parents are of the church, but she's not. And what language do you use to reach her? One of the greatest formulas for your sermons: why, therefore, so that. Why is the context, why this matters is 50% of your communication. I've been working on this to get a formula now for 35 years. And about 3 years ago, we did enough research in enough countries that I feel comfortable telling you this. Half of the time is spent earning the credibility of your audience. Why is it a problem? The why is half of what you talk about. Therefore, that's the solution. The solution's only 20%. Because in the end, if they believe in the why, the next question they ask is, so that. What's the impact? How will my life be different? They're not asking you what you should change. They want to know why you need to change and what that change will do for you. So that is 30%, and therefore it's the 20%. Half of your, if you've got 10 minutes with them, 5 minutes is spent on the problem, 2 minutes is spent on the solution, and 3 minutes is spent on the impact. That is the best formula for communication. Another aspect that's really essential is to begin with a consensus statement. A lot of people like to challenge at the very beginning. Don't. Actually bring them in at the beginning and challenge them when they have faith in you. When Bill Clinton had something tough to say to people, he had already spent 5 minutes convincing them that he knew more than anyone else in the audience and that he was on their side. Only then did he start to tell them that they were wrong. You need to have a fact. You need to have a statement. You need to have something that really grabs their attention at the beginning. Did you know that between right now and right now, 1,000 people will die of hunger? Did you know that between this moment and this moment, 28 people will go homeless? Those aren't real facts. That's an example. But it's something that causes people to stop, breathe in, and go, I didn't know that. We got to change that. This is a sense of urgency. Not in every sermon, not in every lecture, but if you want to earn and deserve someone's mind share, you have to tell them something that gets in there, and it should be mind-blowing. I am going to tell you to ask rhetorical questions. I am going to say to you, imagine life at perfection. What do you see? Every one of you in this room, there are 50 people in this room, 40 people in this room. What's in your head? When I say imagine life at perfection, everyone in this room imagines something different, which makes it all effective. Because it's not what's in my head that matters, it's what is in your head. And when you ask people, that word imagine is the most powerful word in the English language. If you said to me, give me one word to begin a sermon to have an impact, that word is the word imagine. Because if I begin a sermon with imagine, I have touched everyone who's listening to me in their own way. Imagine how life would be different if we all followed the commandments. Every one of you sees something different because each commandment means something different to you. Imagine if we treated people as friends and not as opponents or adversaries. Imagine what life would be like. We will imagine something different. The word imagine just works with everyone in every culture. And it's also about acknowledging that you don't have all the answers. And that's the part that's humility. But you've been searching for those answers since you came here. You've been searching for those answers for much of your life. And they will respect you for that search. Let me show you a couple examples of language, and we're almost done. We're going to end in 5 minutes, or even less. Everyone benefits means the same thing as everyone wins, but we all know in life, I don't know how many people here follow sports. Everyone doesn't win. Rugby, which I assume is popular, you're shaking your head no. I don't know. It's not, I don't think it's football, soccer. What's the number one? It is? Everyone doesn't win the World Cup. One country wins, but everyone can benefit from the competition. No one cheats as the negative. Everyone follows the rules as the positive. Focus on the positive, not the negative. There's a level playing field is an analogy that a lot of people who don't know sports or don't know science or don't know economics don't understand. But they understand when people have the same opportunity or equal opportunity. There's a better and a worse way to communicate this stuff. What do you want to feel from people? Fortunately, left alone is the last answer. That actually was my answer. Being loved is weird. They don't want to be loved by people they met. They want to be valued, respected, and appreciated, and nothing else comes close. These are words that work in multiple cultures. This one is one of the most important of all. which is inclusion. If I'm about inclusion, it means I'm taking one person from that side of the room, two people from this side of the room, and one person from this side of the room. That's inclusion. A little bit of everybody. I'm sorry, I said it wrong. That's diversity. Diversity is a little bit of everybody. Inclusion is everyone. The church is not about diversity. And I've heard comments, I've read from your leadership, and they've used the word diversity, and it drives me nuts. Diversity is what's got us into a lot of these problems. It's inclusion. It's all of us, rather than picking and choosing. So we are at 12:30. I would normally offer a couple more questions. I don't think you're going to do them, but does anyone? Or comments? We got one right there. Please.
So one of the slides you just had was the words to use, words to lose. And I know that, like, especially in the States, there's like that whole, instead of using like combative words, a lot of people say, I feel that, or I think that. That would obviously be part of the words to lose, right?
Yes, because then it's about you, as opposed to about us. So absolutely. And in fact, you gave me an idea right there. Sustainability, which I know the church cares about, because it cares about climate, it cares about the future. Sustainability as a value is good, but it's status quo. Cleaner, safer, healthier is about improvement. You can't improve on the 10 Commandments, but you can improve on your life. You can improve on how you help others and how you communicate. I know I can, and this is my profession. So whenever you can, be on the side of better, not the status quo. And as you say, be on the side of us and we, rather than I or me. Hey, that rhymes. Yes?
Okay, I was wondering if someone of us, after the lesson, goes to you close and say, okay, I'm going to get in charge of the office communication of my diocese, institution, or wherever, how should I behave in the digital continent, or maybe can you give me some key points to summarize?
Number one, ask a ton of questions. Sit people down that you respect the most and ask them, where am I failing? Where is the church failing? What are we getting wrong that we need to fix is number one. Number two is what is meaningful and measurable, because you can't address everything. And I use those two words deliberately. Meaningful, so it's impactful, and measurable, so you can actually test did I succeeded or not. Measurable is how many people come to the lecture, how many people come to your sermon. If we have 50 people coming every Sunday, and then next year we've got 46, we failed. If we got 66, we're succeeding. So you measure, meaningful and measurable. And third is, do people tell you that you're having an impact on their life? I don't care whether they like you. I care whether you have an impact. Have you changed something? Have people who listen to you in terms of communication, have they changed something in their life for the better and they recognize it? Those would be the three proof points that you have succeeded.
Thank you.
Maybe I should stand. Okay, I'm speaking from the context of India. You said a lot about church, inclusion, and all. From the part that I come from India, the church is meant only for ritual. So the church, people think only in the morning, 8 o'clock, and in the evening, 6 o'clock. And there's nothing else to do with the church. So we are religious, we are members of the church, but we have contact with the church only in the part of rituals or the prayers, only that thing. So we do not have a personal contact with the church. So how can the church influence with their words to the people who do not have personal contact at all with you? It's only in the time of rituals. How do you approach?
The church is a part of every aspect of one, can be a part of every aspect of one's life, but you take it out to the community itself. So I would be doing events. There is pockets of tremendous poverty. There still is. I would focus on alleviating that poverty. I would focus on helping people who have nothing to do with the church, because that's real empathy. I was taught at a young age that the best gift you can give is one where no one knows that it was you who gave it, and you don't know who you gave it to. That double-blind anonymity, anonymous, is the most powerful gift. I don't agree with that. I want people to know that the church has a big heart, and that is not just about the faith. It's not just about the religion. It's also about a commitment to community. So in India, I'd be active in those places, in those communities that desperately need your help. That would be a way that I would introduce myself to them and then seek from there to show them that there's more than just our community service. It's a good question. Okay.
I'm sorry that we have no more time. I just wanted to thank you. If someone will tell me what are you, what's the challenge that I have received, is make yourself a lot of questions. Yeah, I think that what you have inspired us is to not be quiet in a certain sense inside of ourselves, no, but challenge ourselves and find like that, no, what's my main fear, what's my main value, why do I want to communicate, what do I stand for, what do I want to fight for, and I think that's a lesson for life, and I thank you so much for that.
This has been a privilege. Thank you guys very much.